Hello and welcome to this week's CareerWise, the show that explores the impact of every twist and change in education policy on your career. When it comes to pay, there can't have been a bigger shake-up than the decision to change management allowances for teaching and learning responsibility payments. We'll be finding out how one school in West London implemented the changes.
This member of staff was one of the ones who was badly affected by the changing TLRs. It was for her and about 3 or 4 others that we looked at it again and tried to make it more equitable, and she's happy now. At least I hope she's happy now.
And I'll be joined in the studio by NUT representative Barry Fawcett and Bill Simmons from the National Bursars Association.
It's caused huge disruption to schools, badly designed, badly introduced.
There were members of the teaching staff in schools that would be being paid for roles that they were no longer fulfilling.
On the last series of CareerWise, I spoke to Minister for Schools Jackie Smith just before the introduction of teaching and learning responsibilities at the beginning of the year. In a moment, we'll be taking a look at their implementation in one school, but first, let's recap on the government justifications for the pay overhaul.
When I was teaching, people used to get management allowances, the equivalent of management allowances then, for things like having responsibility for school trips. Well, that isn't what people came into teaching for, and arguably it isn't what we should be paying teachers for.
Now, Minister, is the purpose of TLRs simply to shave a bit off the salary budget?
Absolutely not. What TLRs is about is dealing with a long-term problem that we've developed over the years, a payment system that pays people quite often for management responsibilities, for other responsibilities that at the heart aren't about the key thing that teachers are in schools to do, and that is teaching and learning. And of course that's something that's been recognised by the social partners in the teacher unions and head teacher unions who've been willing to work with us to make those changes.
It's going to mean a massive readjustment for thousands of teachers' personal finances though, isn't it? And aren't you going to have a lot of early retirement? I'm
actually more worried, and teachers have said it's the grind of the job which doesn't have to do with teaching and learning that is what is more likely to make people want to retire early. You know, people come into teaching because they want to work with children and young people, they want to make a difference to their lives, they want to help them to achieve. That's what we want teachers to be able to do as well. There will be some difficult changes that need to be made, but in the long run I think this will get us to a position where teachers are rightly being rewarded for what they came into the profession to do, with safeguards for people's income. I think that's a reasonable transition to go through.
To find out how these changes are being managed on the ground, the CareerWise team headed for Fulham.
Oh, you're leaving? I hope you've left lots of money. This is budget day, so they come in to tell us how much we're going to get for next year.
All our staff are now on the new TLR scheme, and in fact we were very pleased to be congratulated by our local authority, Hammersmith and Fulham, as being the first school to implement it and have it done and dusted, as they called it, by the deadline. In fact, we were in advance of the deadline.
What are you called now?
Assessment Secretary.
Assessment Secretary? Something like that. We had so many changes of name for this job that she is it, whatever it is. So fire away, ask her anything you like.
And do you feel like you're treading on teachers' toes at all, taking on these jobs?
No, they don't want to do them, and they're not allowed to do them, so that's why I'm doing them.
Fortunately, in this school, it was, although we were told it shouldn't be, very much an assimilation of an existing structure. We had a very tight structure for our staffing that I've worked on for the last 20 years to bring about. And we didn't have many of our teachers being given management allowances for jobs that were not teaching and learning already.
So just as we don't waste money on teachers who are in charge of broom cupboards, we don't waste money on anything else either.
But in the first draft of the new pay structure, heads of non-core subjects like Bernadette Martin, responsible for modern foreign languages, were going to lose out.
This member of staff was one of the ones who was badly affected by the changing from the management allowances, the TLRs. And it was for her and about 3 or 4 others that we looked at it again and tried to make it more equitable. And she's happy now.
Algérie, 8.
Listen, you're not meant to be enjoying your education. What is the big joke? She'll lead you into mischief, she will,
I was telling them that during my first teaching practice, I used to teach PE.
I bet she had a designer suit for it.
When I received the letter detailing what the consequences will be, I was absolutely mad because I stood to lose a substantial amount of money, and being so near to retirement, I just thought it's going to affect my pension, and I felt this is mad. I've been here one of the longest, and I'm the most affected. So I couldn't understand the logic of it, and I was absolutely livid.
In the documentation for all of this, it does say that special dispensation may be considered for people near retirement age who've lost money in this way. But there's no hard and fast concrete rules, and people don't need that level of anxiety.
I used to look like Nadia Comaneci at the time.
They won't know who that is, they're too young.
Yeah, they did.
I'm impressed.
And
My first port of call, I checked on the internet to see whether there's been a mistake or what the rules were. And I could see there were several options that the school could have taken. So I got very cross, thinking, oh, they took the wrong option. So I went to see Mrs. O straight away, and I just complained bitterly, like I know what to do, in a very French way as well.
Senior management and unions worked closely together to create a more acceptable pay scale. Non-core subject heads were put at the very top of TLR2. This meant that core subject heads, who initially looked to gain substantially, had to accept a compromise.
It was quite funny being involved in a process and actually sitting in a room while your own salary is not necessarily going up as much as you hoped. But I think at the start of the process, everybody was quite fearful that they would be going down. So the fact that we were, in the main, going slightly up was still quite nice, and a relief, I think, for everybody.
You look very guilty. Now, don't tell me you must be composing something brilliant. What are you doing?
yes, we're doing gamelan pieces.
Gamelan pieces, right.
In other school, it's created a lot of bad feeling, and it's tremendously divisive, because some people are going to gain, some people are going to lose.
I think it's too soon to say, really, whether the new system will allow promotions in the way of the old one. I can't see a great difficulty, because we all now know that we are not meant to, even if we ever give out money for things that should be done by administrative staff, who are, of course, a lot cheaper than giving the teacher. This is, after all, what the whole thing is presumably been done for. I have to say, when we did our scheme, we were told you had to hand in a new scheme that showed cost effectiveness, and I don't think our total was remarkably huge in terms of the savings that we've made.
Yes.
And then rearrange teaching and learning and trace over. She's teaching, she's learning.
Well, that school seemed to manage the change between management allowances and TLRs without too much blood on the carpet. Well, is that always the case? Let's find out from our two experts. Barry, do TLRs work for everyone in a fair way?
No, I mean, it's been introduced in a most cack-handed way. It's not been designed well. There have been problems up and down the country. We've had to threaten, or in some cases have strikes in order to get sensible application of the new arrangements. So really, it's caused huge disruption to schools, badly designed, badly introduced, and it's caused us an awful lot of work to try and keep things on an even keel.
So you're really sitting on the fence on this one?
Absolutely.
But what's the main bone of contention? Is it the fact that teachers are losing out because of the disappearance of management allowances?
With management allowances, you've got 5 nationally set levels of payment for different levels of responsibility. That's been replaced by a system of 2 salary ranges with considerable discretion and flexibility to individual schools about the levels of those payments. One school could pay $3,750, another school could pay $4,500 for an identical job.
But it's only fair that, you know, the school manages its individual resources. You know, not everybody can pay the same, surely, or is that heresy?
I mean, there's no point in having a national salary structure if you can't have coherence and consistency and fairness of reward for the same level of responsibilities.
Bill, from a bursar's point of view, do you recognise this chaotic and unfair system that's being described?
If you go back to the old management allowance system, I mean, it was a lot of inconsistency in how those allowances were awarded. So something, it needed to be changed, and also you had to overcome this other thorn in the side of some schools giving management allowances on the recruitment and retention basis, which was not what they were originally designed for. In terms of the TLRs, I think I would agree with Barry on some of the points that he's made. I'm not sure that we would go along with the disruption to schools because from the point of view of the bursar and the support staff, that causes major problems.
What do you believe has to change to make the system work, or is it a question of giving it time to bed in, Barry?
Well, I think the system was designed in such a way to make it as difficult as possible to move from one system to another.
No, I don't think whoever designed it, that might have been the effect, but I don't think they set out to do that, surely.
Well, I think they did, actually.
What would be the point of doing that?
Well, I think they sort of took the view that there was such fundamental problems with the existing system that they had to do it in that way. That was totally wrong. I mean, no system is ever perfect. So they set out on this system. One of the other areas that caused big problems was they didn't make any proper provision for the roles that teachers do in pastoral work. And teachers do a very valuable work in that. I'm not saying that support staff and others are not involved in that. They clearly are. So what we've had is a huge period of disruption to schools, quite unnecessary.
Barry, last word for you. Is this just a cost-cutting exercise, TLRs, at the end of the day?
I suppose in some ways it is, because there were members of the teaching staff in schools that would be being paid for roles that they were no longer fulfilling. And therefore, yes, if you like, if you take that cash away, that's a cost-saving exercise. I'm not sure that it was actually designed to do that. I think what it was designed to do was to make it more transparent. I go back to what I said about the recruitment and retention side, and also teaching staff being paid for roles that they were no longer undertaking. I have no problem with teachers being paid for what they do, and I think they do a very valuable job. But I think if somebody takes on an additional role for a period of time, yes, pay them an additional amount by all means. At the end of that period, then that needs to be taken back again, as same as it would be in the world of commerce.
Oh, you've brought the world of commerce into a discussion about teaching. I better leave it there before the gloves really come off. Thanks very much indeed to both of you for joining us in CareerWise today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
If you'd like more information on anything you've seen on this week's show, there's more information on the website, www.teachers.tv/CareerWise. Thanks very much indeed to all this week's guests. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon.